Yeah, excited to start practice today. I've missed our kids and seeing them around, and you feel a little scattered, truthfully, with everything that's going on and the calendar we're faced with, and to combine, you know, bowl prep with that is it makes for a full weekend for sure with us having recruits here and trying to start bowl prep. But it's exciting that we have that opportunity, and it's going to give, I divide the year up in kind of segments for my mind, and you have that spring strength and conditioning period in January and February that's critical, and then spring practice, obviously, summer workouts to get you ready for fall camp. Then you break the season up into the different seasons based on your open weeks, and then obviously you jump into recruiting, and then hopefully you have another segment of the season that's around bowl season, and that's what we're facing. That's always a good thing that we have put ourselves in position to get extra practices and extra play. We're playing a very good opponent. You watch them play the upper echelon in their conference, and it was impressive, particularly the Michigan game and the things they did in that game to have a chance to win it truthfully. And I think their quarterback is maybe the leading passer in Big Ten history. They're very efficient and run screen game a bit more than we've seen. We'll have to tackle extremely well against them. Very athletic and defensive. They're very physical. So it's going to be a great challenge. I know Coach Loxley fairly well. In the 2 years I took off, I spent some time there with him when he was up the road at Alabama, and a very, very, very good football coach, and it will be a great challenge for us in the Music City Bowl. But we're excited to get started. Just had a team meeting, and looking forward to the next week with them before we break for Christmas holidays, and then meet up at the bowl site.
Hugh, your NFL guys, have they communicated to you whether they're going to opt out of this game? And do you know maybe who is, I guess, of the entire roster going to play?
Yeah, I've tried to get confirmation with all of that because I'd never like to speak. Sometimes I say things that are not exactly accurate, and I don't like doing that. It's not intentional. And I believe that DJ and Pritchett will not play. As I believe that about Marcus Harris also. I think those guys will decide to opt out. I believe everybody else is obviously, you have the transfer portal world. It's a whole different, maybe that's a whole different discussion, but I think the rest are planning to play as long as they're healthy enough to play. I do, as long, again, he's nursing that hamstring some, but I just met with him. He has intentions to play.
Hugh, the transfer portal, I know you can't go into specifics on who y'all are going after right now, but this early window at the time as it is, how do you feel like you guys have been able to handle that and trying to, manage that, knowing that you also got high school recruiting and bowl prep and all that stuff?
Don't think I've handled it very well, truthfully. We want to build this program through high school for the most part. Having said that, I don't know that you can ever isolate yourself into saying that's what's going to happen, because you don't know how many you're going to lose at this time, if that makes sense. So you can plan to, hey, we're going to replace these 20 seniors with 20 high schoolers, but then all of a sudden you have 30 spots and you haven't recruited enough high schoolers for those spots. And obviously you have to go to the portal then. And I think our calendar is extremely messed up. I don't think it's good for high school recruiting, portal recruiting, managing your own team, getting ready for bowl prep. I think our calendar needs a serious look at it for what's best for our game. So it's hard for any of us to truly manage all of it truthfully.
You talked with us before about some of the young guys in the secondary where you knew you were going to be thin. You're really thin up front defensively now. What are you thinking? Maybe some movement or
we have to play
what
these.
options you got?
I just told these young guys they're going to get thrown in there, and it'll be fun to watch them. And it truthfully, I hope to play. Well, you're going to get those young corners and for sure, and be good to get there, see how they prepare for a game. And then go play a very talented football team. And, up front, we are a little thin now for sure with Messiah being out and then Marcus choosing not to play. And so it's next man up. We got to get some of these young guys in there, some DJ Reeds and some Bobbies, and throw them in there and see how they do.
Sometimes when you're dealing with portal kids who are looking for a new home in the portal and you're talking to them, you've only got however long, 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes. How do you find a way to kind of stick out from the crowd when you're doing it?
I don't think I've done very well. Truthfully, it's difficult. I think my gift in the success I've had or lack thereof in recruiting is typically relational driven, and over the course of time, I think I can prove that I'm interested in that as much, if not more, than others. And in the portal, it's different, and so the reasons are maybe a little bit different for some leaving than others, and you've got to try to prove to them, initially on a phone call that they should look at Auburn. And we've done okay with that, but we've had many visits set and they never even get to campus, and that they've already decided where they're going before we ever get in front of them, which is a bit different for me. And maybe I need to change our approach some to that. But I love, before we get really serious with some, I'd love to get in front of them and have some conversations. And who knows what's the best way to go about it right now. But I think we're all kind of in some trial and error to see what really works and what doesn't. Again, idealistically, I'd love to just sign a bunch of high school kids and build great relationships with them and never lose them. And I don't know that may be in dreamland with the way the climate is of college football today, but that sure would be nice to do that. And the portal world, maybe we need to start trying to visit them as soon as you can instead of setting up for a weekend that never happens. I don't know. It's been challenging to figure out.
You just after you've had a chance to kind of go back and look at the year, just talk about the quarterback position,
Mm-hmm.
Payton, Holden, obviously lose Robbie to the portal, and kind of thoughts on moving forward at that room.
Yeah, so the portal guys had great conversations with Robbie, and I wish all those guys the best. I mean, everybody's got to make their own choices of what they think is best for them, and so we try to give them great advice and wisdom, and obviously convince them to stay if we think that's best for them. In some cases, it's okay for them to leave, but enjoyed my conversations with Robbie. Wish him the best, as I do the rest of the guys that have chosen to go in the portal. As far as the quarterback room, I think I'm just going to be really blunt. Okay, I think the cool thing, it seems in most people's eyes right now, the cool thing is as soon as a quarterback hits the portal, man, I'm immediately getting hit. This is your guy. Throw the bag at him. I'm like, have y'all watched the film, or does it? I mean, how many games has he won? And ultimately, that's what a quarterback gets judged on is how many games he wins. And that just seems to be the cool thing to do. And maybe they're right. I don't know. But truthfully, we evaluate and watch every single quarterback / lineman / receiver that goes in the portal, and we try to evaluate, is this the best thing for our football team? And truthfully, I don't know if you know this, but we have one of the top returning quarterbacks in Power 5 with wins in Payton Thorne. I believe that if we get the right pieces around him and Holden and Walker and Hank, I think our quarterback room is going to be fine next year. And that is my belief. It is what drives me to get the right pieces around them. I thought he showed once we settled in offensively what he could do. And again, if you look when he had 2 NFL receivers and the 2 kids at Michigan State, the guy threw for 6,700 yards. And I think he can do just fine. And so I haven't found a guy yet. And number one, if you go take one, you're probably going to lose Payton, Holden. You better be right. And I'm just, I believe in Payton. I believe in Holden. I believe in Hank, and I believe in the kid we've got coming. And so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's my belief, and looking forward to getting better pieces in our offense and him improving. I also would say, I don't know, in year one of the transfer quarterback world, who set the woods on fire? Go look at that and find out. Now, year 2, there's a few, and that's my expectation for Payton or Holden or whoever wins it.
And also on the offensive transfer notes, you guys are really thin at the wide receiver position, kind of in this bowl game. I guess, what do you want to see out of your wide receivers currently on the roster in the bowl practices, in the bowl game, especially knowing kind of what you have coming in next fall?
Yeah, we're going to some of the, we'll be in 12 personnel some, which helps. But I think Jay Fair is going to, get better. I do. I think Camden Brown's going to get better. And, hopefully Shane and Nick and those guys that are staying with us, man, it'd be nothing better. I'd have no greater joy than to see them have success. And Coy. And we got to be careful how we practice. Their legs could get tired because we are fairly thin there, and you might even see a Cassidy jump out there some, and that would be very gratifying for me to see some of those guys get those opportunities. So, but we'll manage the prep on them for sure. But I do expect them to get better. That's what these practices are for.
Coach, retaining Keontae and Eugene, just kind of how involved, if at all, were you in those conversations, and just kind of what did they bring to the locker room next season? Yeah,
I was very involved in talking to our players and all of them that are trying to decide if they're going to test the NFL waters or not. Obviously, we get the reports back from the NFL, and I share those with everyone, and I can give them my opinion. Ultimately, it's their choice. I'm glad and really glad that people like Keontae and Eugene are coming back to help lead us. I think they'll be great for these young kids as 2 of our 2 great leaders and captain material guys that can help set the culture for our defense next year. So thrilled that they're back.
Hey, yeah. Oh, she asked my question
Yeah.
here. Yes, you mentioned at cornerback. I know Kyan Lee has got some starting experience, but at the other corner, who are some guys that are going to be competing to potentially be starting?
Yeah, I'd say J.D. Rim and Colton Hood and Tyler Scott and Can Lee will probably get most of those reps. Maybe Hart will get a few too, but all of them are going to get some reps. But I would think those 4 probably get most of the reps in the bowl practices.
You're just a couple of days away from signing day. How do you feel like y'all will be able to finish out this class?
Oh man, that's I'm optimistic, but I've done this long enough to know some crazy things can happen between now and signing day. So it's I'm certainly not going to think that it's all finished. But like the effort that we've put into building the relationships and to being thorough, and feel like we're signing a very solid class for our first class here. And there's always a few missing pieces that you'd like to have a few more of, but there's no doubt that if we get to the finish line with the kids that we think we're going to get, we've improved ourselves.
I guess you've already got a receiver now in the portal. Sort of just going down the positions. What are kind of your spots you'd like to fill out in the portal?
Well, if I knew what was going to happen Wednesday, that's been one of my issues too. With when I say that I don't think I've been very good at some of this portal deal, is because I'm really committed to trying to sign the best high school class we can, and it's really hard for me to juggle the numbers in my mind of managing the 85. If you're really committed to that, you kind of got to see a few things through. And then I guess if we don't get everything we need, which you typically don't, then you're hoping that weekend in January provides you a few of those possibilities to fill the gaps in the portal, or then obviously it would be after spring practice that you tried to do it in that order. You'd rather do it in that first weekend in January that they're giving us. I'd rather have it off, but we're going to have to work that weekend, it looks like. So, and you don't know how many more people are going to go in it, but you kind of, I guess I've already put my chips in, saying, I'm pretty all in. I'm trying to sign this high school class and would like to see it through and then go from there. And again, not one to sit here and say that my plan is the perfect one, but that's the plan.
Following up on the quarterback stuff, I guess, to go from a point where you're in a quarterback competition with Payton, quarterback rotation with Payton, and now sitting here seeming really comfortable with him going into next season, how did you see him develop and learn your offense to go from that point in August to where you sit now?
Yeah, really just after the second half of the season, as we got a little better at receiver and we got more comfortable maybe doing the things that we're going to try to do moving forward. I just thought I saw him continue to get better, and his IQ for the game, his competitiveness, his toughness that showed, I think, in the Alabama game in particular. I think he's got the ability to be a dual threat guy that has great understanding of what we're trying to do. And if you get the right pieces all around him, I think he's going to be dang pretty efficient. If you look at the PFF stats toward the last half of the season, I mean, his are pretty dang good. And so I'm concentrating on using our resources and time to try to build all the other pieces first. And then let's go see how these quarterbacks perform in spring practice.
Going off of what Matt just asked, you guys brought Payton in later. He didn't have spring practice this past year. How much do you think he can get better by having a full off season?
There's no doubt. I just think year two for him, after going through a season and a spring practice and another fall camp, I think there's going to be a drastic difference, and obviously getting a few other pieces around him.
In this world, how much is it a conscious decision of either going, hey, we're going to be portal, or we're going to build this thing and try to add those pieces? You almost have to choose which direction you want to go.
Oh, there's no doubt. And there's some teams right now that are totally saying, I don't care what our high school class looks like, we're going all portal. Or I say not all, but majority, that's where we're going. That's where we're spending our resources. Or vice versa. And I don't know which one's right. I'm going to try the high school formula with needs from the portal. if I strike out on the high school guys, we'll be begging for the portals here this in January and in the spring. But I would really love to build it like that and get a relationship with kids and their families and try to hold on to them at Auburn and get Auburn to love them and them to love Auburn. And I know that's, I don't know. I'm just still hopeful that that there's a group of guys that we can convince to do that.
Yeah, sort of sticking with some of the problems there. An obvious problem with recruiting in the portal is the dead period that's coming up, which makes sense for high school. But how difficult is it once you know what you need not to be able to be face to face with those guys until January, as they're still going into the portal, may not even be in the portal yet?
Yeah, well, it's what I said about the calendar. It's a mess, and whoever's in charge, I wish they could live the last couple of weeks that the coaches are living, and the players and the staffs. But God knows I don't want it to be live again. We need a break, and as hard as it will be, but the last thing we want to do right now is go back on the road. It's a madhouse, and it's very, very challenging, and the calendar has got to be looked at and changed somehow, some way, for the sanity and for what's good for our sport. Yep. Thank you, guys.